past year has changed so much about our lives, from the way that we interact with people, to the way that we travel, to the way that we work. And it's been a really difficult and turbulent time. And in these times, purposeful leadership has never been more vital. We know that as responsible employers, it's crucial for leadership teams to not only focus on rebuilding the bottom line, but to also prioritize the well-being of their people. And I'm really interested in what does purposeful leadership look like in the 21st century and beyond. And I'll be reaching out to some business leaders that I admire the most, and I would love to hear their thoughts and learn more about the traits that make them such effective leaders. And to kick off the series, I am thrilled today to be joined by Shai Weiss, who is CEO of Virgin Atlantic. And he's one of the kindest, smartest, and most wonderful leaders I know. So thank you very much for agreeing to do this, Shai. You are a very busy man at the moment. So it really means a lot to me that you're here to chat about purposeful leadership.
Really cool to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're welcome. So we all know it's been a tough year. It's been a really tough year for everybody. But it's been a particularly tough year for the airline industry. Do you remember exactly when, back last March time, you realized that this was going to have an everlasting effect on our lives and particularly on the airline sector?
Yeah, and you know that's the answer is yes. But I think even, and I'll give the full answer, but even going back in time, I don't think anyone could have predicted the depth, the severity, and the length of this, terrible crisis, which of course has impacted lives and livelihoods of so many around the world. But for us, I was actually in the U.S. on a board meeting. It was in late January, and our crews started to feel hesitant about flying to China, to Shanghai. And I decided to cut my trip short by one day, and I returned to the UK. And indeed, on February the 1st, we suspended flying to Shanghai. And that looked like the most enormous decision I'd ever made in the airline. But, things continued to evolve. And the big change was the weekend, actually, of March the 21st, 2020, where of course, the UK was already talking about a lockdown, which I think came into effect on March 23rd. I read the scientific paper that Professor Ferguson from Imperial College wrote, and I read it on a Saturday. And he was talking about non-pharmaceutical interventions and the potential impact on lives in the UK, which was much larger than I had expected to read. And that jolted me into action. The next day, I kind of sat down and I do write these one-pagers. I wrote a one-pager of what I thought this could mean to Virgin Atlantic, took it to my colleagues at the leadership team, and from then on, we've been in action mode since then. So, and these things I think will be with me forever. These are just dates. Of course, we all are human beings and like to focus on a date that something changed, but my psyche changed, my outlook changed. And indeed, we've been, like everybody else, dealing with this ever since.
Yeah, and what's so difficult is it's ever-changing goalposts, which is so hard for companies. I really admire you as a leader, and it's I've sort of looked up to the way you manage people and the way you tackle difficult issues. You did this one very quickly, like you came up with ideas very quickly. Do you think your role as a leader has changed since the pandemic? And do you think you've learned anything about yourself as a result?
Well, I would say that I have learned a tremendous amount about myself, and my role, of course, has changed. But to ourselves, to our people, we say that we will never be as united with a very specific purpose and mission as we have been through this pandemic, which is really, first of all, the health and safety and security for our people and passengers, of course, is our number one priority. But for us, it is and was a fight for survival, to make sure that we get to the other side of the pandemic in a place that allows us to also benefit from all the things that we have changed and learned about ourselves, about our teams, about our company. For me personally, of course, this is a tremendous period of uncertainty and setbacks, and you think that things are working out, and then a winter shows up and we know we're going to be challenged even further. But I think the seminal lesson that I've learned is that our people, we always say that they are amazing, but in the time of calling, their ability to unite against the mission of saving Virgin Atlantic, to go the extra mile, to provide discretionary effort has been sensational, monumental. The team that we have has been, in my mind, the best team, which has really battled, hardened. And for me, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a bit later, I've learned the power of trust. It was impossible to be on top of everything. And all we did is we pointed the direction. We decided what to do collectively. And then we just trusted people up and down the company to get on with it. And, just to see that galvanize and manifest itself day in, day out has been remarkable and humbling.
Yeah, well, like as you say, you must have felt that you had the whole world on your shoulders many of times throughout the last year, and it's probably not going away. But do you think there's any way of lifting that? So you say trusting your people, so lifting that pressure off your shoulders. Do you think having strong leaders around you that you can rely upon in a crisis has been paramount in getting you through this?
Yes, but it does not dilute or remove the burden. The burden is extremely large. It's meant to be, right? The leader is meant to carry the burden of their organization. And in our case, for me, it was all about ensuring Virgin Atlantic survives and to save as many jobs as possible. That was the galvanizing thought that, early on in March last year, actually a year ago, was the thing that united me. I knew that it was not going to be for any one of us about money or ego. We had to throw those to one side and really focus on what matters and making a difference. Of course, being part of the team, and we always say that airlines is the ultimate team sport, given the complexity of what it is. I could have not done it without the team, and for that I am thankful. They've been, tremendous. But, the responsibility does not abate or does not reduce. It just means that it's shared a bit. And that you have a better chance of succeeding given the people you are surrounded by.
Yeah, I can't even comprehend what you've been through. One of the things that I talk about a lot is just purpose and how it's really important to have it at the heart of every business, not just think about your bottom line, but also think about how you treat your people, how you give your customers great choices, look after the planet. In your experience during a pandemic, is it possible to still think about all those things as well as thinking about survival, or do you think you go straight to survival of the company?
But they're not, you do, of course, but they are not in contradiction. I think our job is to prove that the purpose that we have, by the way, for Virgin Atlantic is everyone can take on the world, and a very clear vision, which is that we want to be the most loved travel company. And the purpose is ever standing. The vision is probably a 10 to 25 year horizon, and it's almost aspirational in its ambition. But for our people, I think what we've learned is that they have gone the extra mile, that they will sacrifice. Even the fact that we had, to shrink our company by about 45%, 4,500 people had to leave our company. They did it with grace. And we did it in a way that we've actually created holding pools where people could come back when demand returns, which it will. I think one of the things that has been difficult, of course, has been, we always say that the secret sauce for Virgin Atlantic is its people. And I know many people say that, but we really believe that. And for a company that has been under severe strain, of course, working remotely, the thing that we all lack is this connecting tissue. We are a very tactile organization, and working remotely, some people on furlough, some of them, 10% of our company have not been at work for over a year now, which is unheard of. And how do you keep on the ethos of the purpose of the things that we're doing, the good things that are happening, the bad, the prospects for the future, I think is being strained, but the purpose still united us. Of course, it was really honed in on survival, but I don't think we would have survived had we not had this connecting tissue of the uniqueness of our people.
Well, I'm so glad that that's your answer, because I agree. From pre-pandemic, I know that Virgin Atlantic has always had purpose for a very long time, embedded into everything that you guys do, and you've done it so well. And so I agree. I think it is something that's really helped and galvanized your people around it. So I feel very, very proud of you all. I really do. I think it's been so great. Just had it really at the heart of everything you do. Communication is another big topic, and it's really critical when living your purpose, especially when it comes to the way that you communicate about the leadership. How do you communicate effectively with your teams, your customers, and your people?
And again, communication, but not just communication, but actually listening and conversation. Communication sounds almost one way, which is absolutely important when you're dealing with thousands of people distributed around the world and on planes. Our place of work is a plane. But we've learned that we've always had open communication. Especially when things were not going our way. And I'll give an example. One of probably the most tough and memorable moments in my professional career and probably in my life was May the 5th, when we announced that we would have to take severe measures in order to ensure that we get to what we did accomplish later on, which was the privately funded solvent recapitalization on September the 4th. And I wanted to tell our people that we would have to reduce the workforce at that point in time by about 3,200 people. But I wanted them to hear the trepidation, the jitters, the fear, the apprehension in my own voice. And I said, let's do a call with 10,000 people. And we said, oh, it can't be done. But of course, we've all learned through this crisis that everything could be done. And we found that Cisco had a very good system that it could actually do up to 150,000 lines. So when I had to communicate the toughest decision, I didn't want it to be read. I didn't want it to be delivered by anybody else but myself. So that was one a piece of just change. What we've done throughout is we could continue to adapt. Whether it's I do virtual coffees with anybody in the company once every 2 weeks, so 20, 25 people just show up. And the number one question I open up with is, how are you doing? And I just go around and listen for me to hear it from our people. We do that in the senior leaders group. Once every 2 weeks, I've now added, I interview one of our LT members on a video blog where we use Workplace, which is basically Facebook for organizations, and we're one of the most avid users. We've got
Have you found that when you ask the question, how are you doing, at the beginning, people weren't quite so honest, whereas now they've learned that you actually want to hear the honest truth, or did it just happen straight away?
No, straight away. And some of it has been actually, one of our team that is having a hard time dealing with one of the family members just because of, the pressure of the situation. No, they've been very forthcoming and very, very honest, both with praise, but also with vulnerabilities. And I think, it's setting the tone. They all know that I'm supercharged, super energized, super demanding, but they also know that I tell them I have very tough days and very bad days, and it's not all going swimmingly well. So I think we've also learned the vulnerability in the communications, and the communication is a conversation where our leaders are trying to really understand. We are doing, every 2 weeks, we sample 20% of our people to hear their voice. We measure happiness as an output with a help of a company called Yumu out of the West Coast in the United States. And all these things continue to evolve. We do a lot of written stuff as well. Every Friday at 4:00, I issue a short note on Workplace for everybody. It's got thousands of reads, and people now know that at 4:00 on a Friday, you're going to get a message that you can consume, just like an editorial of the situation. But comms is essential in this crisis, especially when we're distributed. Remember, airlines are distributed in nature. Our place of work is a plane. Our unit of time is a flight. We can never actually convene the entire company unless it's a call or a mass communication. So I think we've just adapted. It's been crucial to our success. And I think given the circumstances, it's had a contributing factor to our people, keeping them both informed, but also the most important thing, believing that there is a future.
And I also love the communication you have with external people as well. You've got a great Instagram account. Virgin Atlantic has an Instagram account, and it's so open and honest about exactly what's going on within the company. Probably not the nitty gritty, but it really does make you understand the challenges that are happening, but also with some positivity as well.
Yeah, and positivity, exactly. Positivity is the number one thing, but it's also the harsh realities of life. And what we say is, if we first, we always communicate to our people. You will not find something that we've communicated externally, which is tempting sometimes, before we've communicated internally, unless there's a leak or something. And then we first, we kind of have an editorial board that writes the story, and it's called a story that we share with our people. And that kernel of the story is then repatriated in almost the same openness to other people, our customers, our partners, and even our competitors.
So times are probably changing. I hope we're entering a new era of work. We're entering, hopefully the pandemic will be shortly behind us. It might take to the end of the year. Well, let's wait and see. But what do you think purposeful, responsible business will look like in the future?
First of all, I hope that business post-pandemic, corporations and enterprises post-pandemic, are not exactly identical to the ones pre. But I think our belief has not changed. We always say that if we want to be the most loved travel company, it comes with a great responsibility to our people and our customers, the communities we serve, and of course, the planet we live on. So against all three dimensions, we must find things that our purpose yields better outcomes and makes a difference. I'll give an example. Of course, our people, that's, as I mentioned, happiness and inclusivity and diversity and equitable treatment to everyone, which very much fits with our everyone can take on the world. So we actually looked at our purpose. It's perfect for these times. In the community, we've launched and will relaunch once schools are up and running again, and we are up and running again in terms of our reach everywhere, is we focused on STEM education in the local schools that we serve. So Manchester, Swansea, Atlanta, and of course Crawley in the UK. And we're promoting STEM. Imagine a girl that will see our people, our engineers, our pilots show up at school and explain the importance or encourage adoption of STEM-based studies, and she will emerge as a pilot or an engineer at Virgin Atlantic or elsewhere. In terms of the environment, of course, we have to be better. We are members of the Jet Zero Council here in the UK. We've committed to be net zero by 2050, and of course have taken action over the past decade in a leadership position to ensure that happens. So, our purpose is, it starts with our vision of being most loved, and then the responsibility that it yields in various dimensions, as I explained.
I remember writing a whole chapter on Virgin Atlantic in my book, Reconomy, because but even back then, 5 years ago, there was so much happening with regards to especially the stuff that you're trying to do for the planet, and decreasing the weight on the planes and cleaning the planes to make sure they fly smoother, and training your pilots to make sure they go in the, using the most fuel efficient way of flying. It's all those little things that really do add up, but especially being part of the Jet Zero group, it's the fuel that really makes the biggest difference. And if we can try and work out to decrease that's the key.
And that actually for airlines, the biggest thing that airlines, or at least longer haul airlines, and of course it's true for short haul as well, can do is get the youngest fleet in the sky. After that is indeed the fuel. Actually, the pandemic, if you look at what it's had as a positive impact, many participants in our industry retired their gas guzzling 4-engine planes. We've done that despite the fact that we love the 747s and the A340s, but especially the 747s, and now have a twin-engine fleet, the youngest fleet in the sky and across the Atlantic. That is where it starts. But the next thing, of course, will be the fuel and finding sustainable aviation fuels, which is a journey that started a few years ago, but will continue for the next decade at least.
Yeah. So you said earlier that you really important to listen to your people as well as communicating to them. Really good to listen. There's a story about red lipstick, which I'd just love for you to share with us. It's a really important example of listening to your people, and I'd love to know just sort of what went through your mind when you were reading the email that got sent to you.
Yeah, and you know, open communication. So one of our cabin crew, very courageous, very smart. You know, she basically wrote in, this was probably about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, saying that she totally understands our brand and the fact that we are so impeccably dressed and groomed on the planes to give the aura of Virgin Atlantic. But she was wondering why we have a makeup policy which applies only to our female cabin crew and not to the male. And you know, it's like, once you get that type of an email, you think, heck, I can't explain this. I don't know what to say. So we said, okay, I said, leave it with me. I went to the team and said, here's this question, which I think is really a valid question. I'm not telling you what I think, but I don't have a very good answer to this question. Why don't you consider it? And they all went away. And after a month or so, we decided to abolish the specific rules of what lipstick our cabin crew have to wear. Now, the truth is, our grooming standards have actually increased post the relaxation because our people still want to shine. And I said, and then somebody asked me a follow-up question. What would happen if one of your male cabin crew wants to put on lipstick? And I said, as long as it meets our definition of what the colors are, I have no problems with that. Which I thought was, you know, it was the courage, the insight, and the fact that we are so set in our ways sometimes. We sometimes just need to be jolted into action, nudged to think differently. And she shed a light on clearly something that was discriminatory without any intention. We relaxed it. By the way, no change. But if somebody doesn't want to put makeup, no problem. As long as they are looking up for the job, professional, with our, of course, uniform, our red uniforms and red shoes, or black shoes, not a problem.
Yeah, I'm so thankful that that happened and that lady sent that email, because it does get you thinking, and all of us can get quite stuck in our ways without sort of thinking about how things should be changing. And something I just would love all of our companies is that we make sure that each and every one of our people can be themselves but also express themselves, and so they can absolutely bring their whole self to work. Because I just think you shouldn't have to leave your personality at the door when you come into work, or you go and fly on an aeroplane. You absolutely have to be your whole person to shine.
And there's probably more examples of that, not at Virgin Atlantic, of course at Virgin Atlantic, but everywhere where, you know, things have just been. And when you actually think about the inherent reason, or are they fitting with what we now know about, you know, discrimination, equitable treatment, and just inclusion, well, we've got to think again.
Yeah, exactly. That's an amazing moment. What about, are there any other things within your journey at Virgin Atlantic that you're particularly proud of in your purpose journey?
Yeah, so I think this is something to be said for the future, really. You know better than most that Virgin Atlantic was created by your father in 1984, founded. When we get to safe harbor, which we will, and when demand for air travel resumes to its full scale as it was in 2019, different, we're not going to talk about that today, but still meaningful. Underneath what we have done here lies a new Virgin, a Virgin 2.0, Virgin Atlantic 2.0, we call it. And the message that I would like our people is there is no change to our purpose or our vision, our values, our behaviors. That is, I think, profoundly strong and pertinent for the times. But what I would like to challenge is I want our team to think like owners, like entrepreneurs. And the phrase that we've started to use is, we would like 2021 to be the new 1984. So this spirit of reinvigorating, re-energizing, reconnecting, recommitting, reloving should be at the heart of it sticking to our purpose and our vision.
I love that. It's giving me goosebumps.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, well, thanks very much, Shai. It's been so lovely to talk to you. I just love Virgin Atlantic. I've grown up with it. I was 3 when Virgin Atlantic started, and it's my baby as well as my dad's baby, and we really love everything that you guys are doing. And here's to everyone getting back in those skies ASAP, and getting to lots of wonderful destinations again.
And thank you, Holly, for shedding a light on purpose. I think our job as leaders is to show that it's not a fad, that it actually pays back. And I think post-pandemic, I think that we would have not got through this had we not had this combination of, love from our people, but also from our customers around the world who simply see that supporting Virgin Atlantic makes a difference as well.
Mm-hmm. Agree. Well, thank you.
Thank you.